Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show a real statistics professor and his friends give you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides, and I built a set of mathematical models named Sideline to predict various sports outcomes. You'll hear more about the model during the course of this episode. So let's cover 5 Major League Baseball games scheduled to be played on Thursday, March 30th, 2023, opening day of the 2023 season. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for some explanations and community rules. Also, if you're interested in projections and picks for every game, sign up on Dub Club. The link is in the show description. Even though if you're not there, I'm still thrilled that you are here. Remember, just like in college basketball, sports are unpredictable. So discussion of this show projects a typical game and does not try to forecast it to a T, as that would be a foolish and impossible goal. We take a long-term view on here and don't get distracted when closers blow ninth inning leads, because that's definitely going to happen to somebody here on opening day, because that's the sort of thing that happens and it balances out in the long run, but it's hard to foresee before it happens. In other words, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to say will be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Cousin Jared, we are here, and I cannot believe we finally made it back to opening day.
Yes, we have made it back to opening day. The sun is shining. The flowers are blooming. My allergies are killing me. I literally cannot breathe out of my nose right now. So I know that baseball season is upon us.
Yeah, but so for our constant listeners, they can probably hear it in your voice that it sounds a little different than usual.
This isn't exactly Michael Jordan's flu game, but I'm not 100%.
There you go. Speaking of weather, it does seem like the weather's going to look really nice on opening day. Last year, I believe we had one rain out on opening day, or might have been the second. We had one really early. It looks like no rain. But just as an FYI, the Google Sheet will be made available to all of our members over on Dub Club. And this year, I'm going to add a couple features. That one of them is going to be the weather projection that I'm using, so that way everyone can kind of look at that and see. You'll see some really low projected totals, especially tomorrow. It's because we got some 40-degree days. So I'll talk about these on show. Again, these 5 games that we're going to cover. We're not going to do like if you were with us last year, we covered every game, and that made some shows an hour long, and that was just a little too long. So we're going to cut back a little bit on the time, keep it a little bit shorter, go deeper into these 5 games. And again, the rest of the picks, the information, all that stuff will be over on Dub Club, so you can get the rest of the information just like we're giving it to you on show. But got some cold weather. But at least and some windy weather in some places, but at least no rain. I think that's the biggest thing. As long as we're avoiding the rain, we play baseball, right?
Yep, exactly. And you mentioned some bad weather opening day last year. It just feels like all of April, generally, any AL Central team is going to have like multiple games postponed. So
and half the NL Central with the Cubs, and sometimes you get a little bit at Pittsburgh as well. So
yeah. So as long as we get all the games in tomorrow, that will be a wonderful day, in my opinion.
Yeah, and weather is a big effect on totals. Temperature is a huge effect there, one of the biggest effects. The other effect on totals is the baseballs. And hopefully people aren't skipping past this. I'm not going to play a total early on. I told Cousin Jared here before show, I said, I'm not going to play a total for the first month of the season. Now, I never do what I say. So it'll probably be like a couple of weeks, but I'm going to say a month. So I want to see what the baseballs are, because every year in the last couple of years, we've seen different baseballs used. And I kind of want to just get a feel for what's happening. If we're using the old dead balls, especially with the weather tomorrow, just blind bet every under. Every 15 unders, and you're going to go 13-2 probably if we're using those old dead balls again. But then last year, at some point, they mixed in better balls, and the judge got better balls, that whole thing, right? That was a fiasco if you follow into that. So it's gotten weird with the baseballs, and not having a consistent product makes totals a little bit dicey. So if you're betting totals, just kind of the shift and the stolen base stuff, I don't think that's going to affect totals that much. I think it's going to affect individual players. I don't think it's going to affect scoring a ton. I think the biggest thing that's going to affect scoring is the weather and what balls we're using. And I can tell you about the former, but I cannot tell you about the latter with what baseball's doing.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. We've got 5 games for you here today, but before we get to that, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. What we're going to do here is we're going to go A-grade moneyline plays or to return 4 units. That is, the risk plus win amount will equal 4. That way we risk proportionally more on favorites and dogs. This little formula, the reason I'm doing this is we're going to take a big dog today, but I don't want to risk one unit. And rather than trying to figure out where to do one and when to do half and when to do, I just get to plug in the formula. So you plug in the formula, it tells me what I want, and it's ratioed out. I really like using this type of thing. We're going to make the A grades return 4, the B grades return 3, and the C grades return 2. I'm playing every single game. Last year, when we switched this player-based model, about half of the season, the B grades and the C grades were just as profitable as the A grades. So I'm playing them all. I'm playing the A grades a little bit higher. If you want to subset down, obviously, viewer, that is up to you. The A grade plays are the bigger edges, but again, they all did so well last year. I personally am a fan of playing more games. That doesn't mean you should bet out all 15. If you don't like it, don't bet it. But I'm a bigger fan of playing more games, if you like, spreading your units around, playing 10 games, 12 games, whatever you're comfortable. If it's a C grade and you like it, fire away. The C grade picks do well. The B grade, everything does well in the long run with baseball. So I'm not just saying play college basketball. It's a lot more, 120 games. It's like, okay, how do we pick like 20 of them, right? Baseball, again, I think if you're betting 10, I think that's totally fine. Anyway, that's just my little spiel. Let's get to it, though. As always, take what you like and leave the rest. We're going to start off the afternoon. Brewers and the Cubs. We're going to be on the favorite here at Brewers minus 140. It's a B grade pick. The model says that the Brewers should be favored to the price of minus 145. That's a 59% win probability. You've got Corbin Burnes versus Marcus Stroman. Burnes is one of the top pitchers in baseball. Stroman's good, not great, in my opinion. I don't project him to be that much better than average, not even a full standard deviation better than average, but Burnes, again, one of the top pitchers in baseball. Offensively, I've got the Brewers right around league average, Cubs behind them, bullpen, Brewers, kind of like last year. A couple decent guys at the back, but they don't really have a lot of depth. Not a problem when Burnes is pitching because you expect him to get you to the back end of the bullpen. So the fact that the Brewers, fourth and fifth best relievers are bad, to be honest, not going to really hurt them. I like backing Burnes here. I like the Brewers, the better offenses on the road. Minus 140 is a short price. We're going to back them with a B grade pick. The weather in this game, we're going to start off with a slight breeze across, maybe a little bit out. Sorry, a strong breeze, a little bit out, but more across. It's going to start shifting in as the game goes along. Going to be over 10 miles an hour. 40 degrees at first pitch, 45 degrees at the end. So we talk about the top of the show. Cold weather makes the ball die. The wind's going to be mostly going across. Wrigley is one of the most sensitive parks to wind. Why is that? Because they do not have stands in the outfield, so the wind can have more of an effect there, as opposed to most parks which have stands. They don't have very much, right? Most parks have bigger stands in the outfield, makes the wind have a little bit less of an effect. Wrigley is the most extreme park with regards to wind. It's pretty extreme with regards to temperature as well. 40-degree temperature is going to keep the ball in the ballpark. I'm backing the Brewers minus 140, but Cousin Jared, you actually like playing a total here, don't you?
Well, you may be waiting 1 month into the season to play a total. I'm going to wait about an hour and 15 minutes into the season, and I'm going to take the under 7.5.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the bat, coming off the top rope with the underplay. I don't know why this total is 7.5. Completely agree with what you're saying about Burnes getting to the back end of the Milwaukee bullpen. I don't see the Cubs scoring very many runs in this game. I think the way that you described Stroman is very good, though. He's still good. He's above average. I think that his reputation has gone down just because, relatively speaking, he's not as good and dominant as he once was. Yeah. But I still think he's a really good pitcher. Cubs offense, don't think very much of it. The Brewers offense, it's really up and down. They've got some names when you look at them, but the production has just been so inconsistent. And of course, you mentioned the wind potentially shifting in as the game goes on. That's music to my ears. So I'll take the under 7.5 in this game. And yeah, let's start the season with a bang and an under.
Yeah, model projects the total to be under 6 in this one, partially because of cold weather, partially because the matchup, when you look at it, like you said, the Cubs are going to have a really hard time scoring in general. The Brewers' offense isn't good enough on average to get to Stroman is the thing, is that Stroman is good enough to handle this. He's probably not good enough to handle, a fully healthy Astros lineup, Dodgers, Mets, right? Those type of offenses he's going to struggle a little bit more with, but this Brewers offense isn't one of those. So he should have more success, especially in a day where he's going to get tons of help. Let him hit the ball in the air. Unless you just really crush one, it's not going to get out tomorrow. You shouldn't see a lot of home runs in that weather. And if you do, again, it would be more early with the breeze blowing out. But as the pitchers tire down, get a little bit less effective, that's when the wind's going to start helping them even more. It's not going to warm up at all. It just sets up to be a Brewers, 3-1 win would be my off the wall prediction if I had to do that. I'm not going to do that for every game, but if I had to, I would say like Brewers like 3-1. Like it just doesn't seem like there's many runs in this one. And I'm like, how did the Cubs score against a guy like Burns and the back end of that Brewers bullpen, especially on a cold day?
Yep.
Sticking in the NL Central, I don't know why. We got 4 NL Central teams. Here we are. Pirates at the Reds. Maybe not like must-see TV, but it's an A-grade pick on the dog here at the Pirates at plus 120. Sideline says the Pirates should be favored minus 120. So a massive A-grade pick, massive edge here. I've got the Pirates offense as below average and the Reds offense as terrible, especially with Joey Votto not being a part of it. I just have zero faith in this Reds offense. Pitching-wise, I think that Hunter Green is the better pitcher between him and Mitch Keller, but I don't think it's by that much. I think we got a lot of hype around Green. He throws really hard. I think people are viewing this as the Reds have a massive edge at pitcher, and I think it's not that big. I think the Pirates' edge hitting is much greater than the Reds' edge pitching. Both these bullpens are terrible, but the Reds' bullpen is terrible-ler. And so, once we get to the bullpens, the Pirates' crappy bullpen is better than the Reds' atrocious bullpen. I expect nothing of the Reds this year. I'd be really surprised if they get to 60 wins. I feel like we're treating the Reds like they might win 75 games this year, and I don't see any way that's going to happen. Pirates plus 120, A-grade pick. Weather-wise, we're about 60 degrees. Slight breeze in around 5 miles an hour. So another game where we don't expect a ton of runs. Model projects 7.5 in this one based off of, again, chilly weather. A pretty hitter-friendly ballpark with regards to home runs, but if a slight breeze blowing in, it's chilly. It's not going to be the easiest ball out there as opposed to in the summer when it heats up, wind blows out, when pop flies turn into home runs in that park. Cousin what do you got for us?
So, you mentioned Hunter Green, maybe not as good as we think. Our boy, Mitch Keller. Mitch Keller was good to us last year.
So, he was. We backed him a lot.
Yeah. So I think riding with Mitch Keller, again, is a good idea here. But I want to zero in more on the Pirates lineup. You mentioned that their offense is much better than what the Reds are projected to be. I think Andrew McCutcheon signing with Pirates this offseason gives them like a little extra pep in their step that maybe they didn't have before. And you look at like Brian Reynolds and Brian Hayes and O'Neal Cruz, like you've got some real potential with the bats in this lineup. And then our boy Carlos Santana may not get a hit, but he will find a way to get on base.
Three walks, probably.
Death taxes and Carlos Santana getting walks.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like the Pirates offense and this one. Also, interesting note, Kanan Smith-Njigba is an outfielder on the active roster for the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's brother of Jackson Smith-Njigba. And so if you are wondering, we are 151 days until college football season kicks off.
Yeah, I'm just moving to the next game on that one. It's opening day and you're talking about college football.
I had to.
You gotta stick to your brand. 4:10 p.m. Eastern. Mets at the Marlins. We're gonna back the Mets at minus 120, an A-grade pick here. The model loves Sandy Alcantara. The issue is the rest of his team isn't very good, and that's the problem. I have him rated exactly the same as Max Scherzer. I think both of these pitchers are absolutely fantastic. Where Alcantara has an edge is the fact that he projects to go deeper in these games. Last year, we saw him so many times just completely take the Marlins bullpen out of the game. And the model knows that. The model looks at that and says the fact that he pitches deeper means that the Marlins bullpen has less of an effect on this game than literally any other pitcher in baseball. And that matters a lot. The issue is that Max Scherzer, actually on a rate basis, I think is the better pitcher. Mets bullpen's pretty solid, especially at the top. Even though Diaz is not a part of it, it's still a solid bullpen. They still got some decent arms back there. And obviously the Mets offense is light years better than the Marlins offense. Minus 120. I'm not sure how many chances we're going to get to back Max Scherzer at minus, and this Mets offense at minus 120 against the Dodgers. That sort of thing. Maybe, if they play at the Astros, at the Yankees. I mean, it's going to be few and far between that we're going to get a chance to back Max Scherzer at a price like this. Sandy's really good, but it's more than just him. So minus 120 is an A-grade pick on the Mets model. So it should be Mets minus 146. They win 59% of the time. No weather issues here. If there are, they'll just close the roof.
So yeah, I don't need much to say on this one. I want anytime I get the opportunity to back Scherzer and it says there's value, I want to do it. I love the Mets here. The other thing I would say about the Marlins is when I was listening to the season preview for the Marlins, they had one batter that was qualified for any sort of batting counting stat because they had so much turnover with all of their hitters. Most of them not good. So many people injured going up and down between the minors. They had one batter that was actually reached enough stats to be qualified for any, statistical category. So, I mean, to your point, what do the Marlins have in this one against Scherzer?
I mean, they have our boy Yuli Gurriel, who they are apparently putting on the roster. So, I mean, they've got that. And I love Gurriel. He was great. He was great to us as Astros fans. I'm obviously, repping the Astros jersey and cousin jersey with the Astros. The issue with Gurriel is that last year, I mean, he just, when Father Time comes for all of us, and when it comes, and it came for him. And I'm not saying he's done. Obviously, I hope the best for him. He's been a great player, but great for but
yeah, at some point this season, he will have a really good 4-week stretch.
He will, and obviously for the Marlins, what they're hoping, right, is that he has a good,
at the
2-month stretch at the beginning of the season. They trade him, right? But he might. You never know. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen an older player have a bad year and then bounce back the next year. But it's not extremely likely, and that's I kind of feel that way about most of the Marlins hitters. I mean, their upside is they might be decent, right, for so many of them, but there's just not a lot of good hitters. They're going to really struggle against Scherzer. The Mets hitters are going to struggle against Alcantara because he's really good, but the difference is the Mets hitters are of the caliber to at least scratch out a couple of runs against him, and I'm not sure that's true for the Marlins. You never know. You never know when a guy's going to run into one guess right, but in general, Scherzer's at minus 120 is just way too good to pass up, so a great pick there. Last one here at this time slot, 4:10 p.m. Eastern. Twins at the Royals. We're going to back the Twins at minus 148. It's a B grade pick on them. Model says it should be Twins minus 158. They win 61% of the time. We're backing Pablo Lopez here against Zach Greinke. Zach Greinke, one of the few pitchers on opening day that the model rates below league average. Biggest issue with Greinke is that he tends to go 5 innings and he tends to give up 3 runs. It's very just one of them, maybe 6 innings and 3, maybe 5 and 2. He tends to have an inning where he has a hard time. He tends to not go very deep anymore. He was a fantastic pitcher. He's had a great career. I love the guy and I love his quotes. I love how straightforward he is. He's hilarious by all accounts. All of the things you can read about him, teammates telling stories are hilarious. But at this point in his career, not a great pitcher. Pablo Lopez is pretty good, though. I've got him close to a full standard deviation better than league average. Switching leagues, now that the NL has the DH, it probably shouldn't matter too much. Twins have the edge starting pitcher. Twins have the edge in the bullpen by a lot. They've got a pretty solid bullpen. Royals don't. Twins offense, probably pretty average. Nothing really to write home about. Of course, losing Carlos Correa. They're still decent offensively, but they're not great. The issue is the Royals, I don't think they're going to score a lot of runs. That's part of the reason why we think the Twins will win. Weather-wise, we're talking mid-60s. The wind will be blowing out at almost 20 miles per hour. So, wow, 60-degree weather, going to hang the ball up a little bit, not quite like the 40 degrees that we're seeing in, say, New York or Chicago, but it's going to kill the ball a little bit. But 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. You hit a fly ball, wind's going to carry it. So an interesting game here. The model projects 8.5 runs on the total just because it expects an extra home run or two in what's already a pretty hitter-friendly ballpark because those really strong winds blowing out. Cousin Jared, the Twins have the edge starting pitcher. They have a bigger edge offensively, and I think that's what you want to hone in on is the massive edge that maybe the massive disadvantage the Royals are going to have offensively this year.
Yeah, you look at the Royals, and I just don't know where the runs are going to come from. I mean, 2 of their best 3 offensive players, in my opinion, play the same position. You got Salvador Perez, who somehow is only 32 years old. The math doesn't add up there. It does seem impossible. Okay. And then they have a hotshot prospect, MJ Melendez, who also plays catcher. And again, I just don't see it's going to be really tough to get both those guys in the lineup at the same time. And when I think those are definitely 2 of your best 3 or 4 hitters, I think that's a problem. You got Hunter Dozier. I mean, he's whatever. Bobby Witt, good. Vinny Pasquantino at some point this season might be good. He could turn into something good. I don't think he's going to be that right off the bat. So yeah, I just look at this Royals roster and I just don't really see how they're going to score enough runs, especially in against a team like the Twins who have Lopez going and obviously are much better offensively than what the Royals are right now.
And I'll follow that up. Sideline has Pascantino as their best hitter. Unfortunately for them, their second and third best hitters are Perez and Melendez. And beyond that, they don't have a single player that the model rates as league average or better. Every other player offensively is rated as below league average. So, I mean, it goes exactly to what, and I, like it's obviously news to you. We hadn't talked about that specifically, but I mean, yeah, when you're talking about, like you said, when two of their best three hitters are the same position and everybody else is below average, it's not good for them. Their offense,
in a position, but it's not good. And the position where it is literally the toughest to get them both into the game at the same time, because you're running a really big risk if you DH one of them, and then you need, one of them gets injured playing catcher, you got to send the other catcher and you lose your DH. So, it's a really, it's tough.
Although tomorrow with Greinke batting, that maybe not be the craziest thing in the world. The issue is what's going to happen with the relievers.
Where would Greinke fall compared to the league average as far as batting goes?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but he might be better than one of their, one of their bench bats. I mean, they're so, or not better, but he might be within striking distance, because he was a pretty good hitter. You've got a rough spell here for the Royals offensively. Not really sure how they're going to compete in this division. The Twins, of course, on the road, but home field, it matters in baseball, but it matters a little bit more on the fringes, I think, than a situation like this where the Twins just have an edge everywhere. This is about where I'm a little bit surprised we're on the favorite here. I kind of figured that people would be all over the Twins. I figured this price would be out to minus 160, minus 170, minus 180. And we'd be saying, oh, you got to take a chance on the dog because we're going to be really price sensitive here. If you're confused about the price sensitivity because the baseball season comes, I get a lot of people say, oh, just tell me who's going to win. You can't just say who's going to win because the price really matters. If you're confused about that, I've written a little article about it on the website, again, www.pickswithprofessor.com. You can check that. It's how to bet money lines. I think it's /money lines, just as a refresher there on why it's not just about who wins, but it's about the price. And I really thought the Twins price would be higher here. Minus 148. It's only a B grade according to the model, but it feels really cheap to me, given that I just don't know how the Royals pull this off, given they're going up against a pitcher that I think the model probably even underrates in Pablo Lopez. I think Pablo's better than the model thinks he is.
I think the answer was probably just like Greinke's name just carries a lot of respect with it, I think. So I think that's probably your explanation.
Yeah. There's one 7 p.m. Eastern game. That's, of course, our beloved World Series champion Houston Astros. I guess you get prime time when you win the World Series. That's a lot of fun. That should be a fantastic game. Fromber and Dylan Cease. I'm not going to cover it here. I think it's priced pretty well, at least as of right now. Again, we'll have official picks on everything and all the information to all of our Dub Club members. Again, all those links are in the show description. So we're going to fast forward to the late games. 3 late games. We're going to cover the 10 p.m. Eastern Angels at the A's. We're going to take the dog here. The A's plus 194. It's a C grade pick. It's risking like 2/3 of a unit, just taking a chance here. The model last year faded Ohtani a lot, and it worked pretty well. Not that Ohtani's not a good pitcher. He's insanely good. It's just the rest of his team was terrible. I think the Angels will be better this year. Yeah. It's kind of hard not to be with Ohtani and Trout. It's hard to be as bad as they were.
Yeah, it's good. It's almost impossible to be worse than they were last year.
Yeah, get conditioned on the fact they have those two guys, right? Like, it blows my mind with how good those two guys are. But either way, their offense, I think, is going to be pretty solid. I've got them offensively rated towards the top. The issue with the Angels that I have right now is their bullpen is terrible. So this is kind of an Ohtani's got to go 8, maybe 9 in this situation, because I just don't like anything in their bullpen behind him. And Ohtani obviously can go 8 or 9, right? That is possible. We don't think the A's do win. We're just saying at plus 194, it's probably worth a flyer on them, just because if Ohtani doesn't go 9, the bullpen's going to get crazy. Ohtani lost a lot of games last year in 2-1 fashion. He lost a lot of games as bullpen blew. He lost a lot of games for weird reasons because the Angels were just so terrible. Again, I do think they'll be better, but it's not a completely brand new team. The A's are going to be bad, obviously, but they're throwing Kyle Muller out there, who is at least better than league average. He's not terrible. He's not obviously as good as Ohtani, but he's a decent pitcher. I don't know how deep he goes, but believe it or not, I think the A's bullpen is actually better than the Angels bullpen. So if that holds, then, we've got some decent relievers. And the A's always seem to find a reliever or two who's decent. And of course, then they'll trade them by the trade deadline, but they're going to find somebody who can handle that and pitch behind them. Their offense, of course, leaves a lot to be desired. But again, this is all about the price here. A's plus 194. Model says that it's priced fairly well, but this is just one of those, take a chance on the home dog at such huge odds and see what happens and see if Ohtani has another bad luck loss. You also consider the whole World Baseball Classic. Is there any not rust? Is there any, fatigue? He's, threw a lot there. I mean, you just never really know. A little bit of a letdown. That was a pretty intense situation that he was coming off of.
Is there a hangover from winning it?
Is there a hangover from winning it? Is there a, now he's going to be playing in front of, 27 people in Oakland Coliseum, and he's like, whatever, this is lame. I don't know. I have no idea, but Angels plus 194, worth a flyer. What do you think, Cousin Jared?
Yep, I agree. This is for all of our friends in Discord that I've been preaching about all offseason long, that, like the Nationals, the A's, some of these really bad teams, you just got to hold your nose and take the big odds at times because it's going to pay off over the course of the season. I said it last year at the beginning of the season. I'll say it again this year. The A's are going to find a way to win like 60 games. And, they look terrible. They're going to be dogs in so many of these games. But the big odds, it makes it pay off in the long run. So just a little bit of value here, but you got to capitalize with these big odds. Again, the A's will somehow win 60 games this year. And this might be one
defying all logic for sure, because you look at the team and you don't think how, but they will. They do have some young, promising starting pitchers as well. It's a thing to keep an eye on. With JP Sears and then Ken Waldichuk, you got a couple guys who are decent. And again, Muller's not bad either. So, I mean, they're going to hang around in games, especially in that massive pitcher's park there in Oakland. They're going to play some low-scoring games. They're going to accidentally win a few. And again, it's all about the price. I will include, I did last year, and I'll include it again this year in the sheet, a tracking of all the teams or record playing them and just your profitability if you bet them every game, how they compare to the sportsbook. I'll include a lot of those fun details, which kind of like you said, with the A's, you bet them every single game and you shouldn't, but if you were to bet them 162 times, they will not win 80, of course, but they might be profitable because of the big odds. Yeah. They might not be, but they are a team that can win 60 games and be profitable. But if you back the Yankees every single game, you might win 100 and you might not be profitable. It's all about the price on these types of things. Long season, it's a marathon, not a sprint, so we're always going to be smart thinking about that. Weather-wise in this one, though, again, 50 degrees to start, 45 to close. Wind will be blowing out there. It does tend to blow out in Oakland, but it doesn't seem to matter in that park that it's blowing out. It's the way the stadium is built kind of blocks the wind. It's chilly. Wind blowing out doesn't help anything there. But to me, I'm more concerned about the temperature. Model projects 6 runs in this game. And like I said, it's going to be low scoring. And that's exactly what you want. You want a weird varianced game if you're taking a dog. Yeah. You don't want a traditional 6-3 baseball game. You want a really low scoring game where you might get one run into one and one inning, one error, or whatever, and you might win, or you want a crazy game in cores. That's what kind of crap you want if you're playing these big dogs. So a low scoring environment is perfect for taking a chance with the dog in this game. And I don't expect many runs happening on a night like that in Oakland being so dang cold. Yep. Cousin Jared, that is all we've got for opening day. You have any parting words?
I can't wait to just stream baseball all day tomorrow.
I mean, it's definitely going to be what I'm doing. Whether you are, working, whether you're, on the road for work, whatever it may be, right? Finding a way to stream some baseball, have it on a TV, have it on a radio. Kind of a tradition unlike any other here at this time of year. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. And that's all we've got then. Thanks for tuning in this episode. Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can enjoy the sports betting content provided on this channel. Drop right into your feed. Be back again tomorrow, 6 days a week with MLB betting content. Check out the Final Four show if you haven't done so already. But until we see you again, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.